Right, what do you make of Steve Borthwick's England team to take on France at the weekend? There's definitely a bit of rotation. There's definitely some new blood. That was always going to happen because the British and Irish Lions players are away. But, and here's a question I want to pose straight away, and which we will discuss. Has Steve Borthwick picked what he thinks is the strongest available team? And if so, what does that tell us about the way that things are moving with England? Or how much of this side is rotation? I'm a bit conflicted in my thinking. So I'll be down there in the comments with you. Please let me know. Give the video a thumbs up and hit subscribe. I should get the team up, shouldn't I? There it is. There's the team. Of course, first thing to say is this is not a test match. It's an England 15 against a France 15. I mean, they should change that to England 23 now. 23-man game and all that, shouldn't they? I'll tell you the one thing they do need to change is the whole co-captains nonsense. I thought we got rid of that. Remember, it wasn't so long ago England had like a captain and 4 vice-captains. Nuts. Now England have got co-captains in Jamie George and George Ford. Right. Who's the person that's going to be doing the coin toss when the referee and Pablo Matera are stood there at Twickenham? Not Pablo Matera, that's Argentina. That's the Lions game. Whoever the France captain is going to be, I don't know, because France have gone with a properly experimental team, so I don't know who the captain is going to be. But whoever it is, who's going to be the person stood there with him? You think it'll probably be Jamie George, in which case Jamie George is the captain, and let's stop this nonsense. The other thing, let's just discuss the kit before we actually get into the team. What do you make of that stash? I'm a big fan of Rugby stash. And that, to me, first England kit by Castore. Am I saying that right, by the way? Is it Castore or Castore? I mean, that's how new and entrant they are onto the whole rugby scene, because I don't know even how to pronounce the kit. I know they've been manufacturer for Saracens and a few other clubs. This is definitely the biggest gig they've got. And I think they've done a pretty decent job with the England kit straight off the bat. It reminds me very much of the England kit that they wore in 2003 when they won the Rugby World Cup, which I'm okay with that. I am a big fan of a proper collar, but I quite like the kit. Let's see how it looks when they run out in it on Saturday. And more importantly, let's talk about the team that's going to be running out wearing that kit. And let me go through it. And again, I'm just going to reiterate that question. Tell me what you think. What is Steve Borthwick thinking with this? How much of this team is rotation? How much of this team is who he thinks is the best available player? And I've got mixed thoughts. First and foremost, look at the front row. Finn Baxter, Jamie George, Joe Hayes. That is the front row that was on the bench during the Six Nations. So they've moved up to the starting spots, with Ellis Genge, Luke Cowan-Dickie and Will Stewart being away with the Lions. And then the third choice, step up to second choice, Theo Dan, Bevan Rod, Trevor Davison. Oh, by the way, Asher Opoku-Fajor was training with the British and Irish Lions this week. He's now back with the England squad, but I suspect that's why he's not involved, maybe over Trevor Davison. Point being, on the strength of the front row starting and on the bench, that looks very much to me like Steve Borthwick is picking his strongest available side. But then when you look at other positions, maybe it gets a little bit murkier on that front. Second row, Alex Coles and Nick Ezekwe. I actually did pick what I thought was the strongest available England team when Steve Borthwick announced the training squad earlier this week. And the pack, I went for Finn Baxter, Jamie George and Joe Hayes. Sorry, can I just apologise for going 15 down to 1? I should have gone 15 down to 9, then 1 to 8, 6 to 16 to 23. That's my bad. Really sorry about that. But as you can see, I went with almost the same pack that Steve Borthwick did. I went for Ezekwe on the bench and Chandler Cunningham South starting in second row. And I went for, but Steve Borthwick has gone for Ezekwe starting and Cunningham South on the bench, which does in itself highlight the fact that Steve Borthwick is also thinking about Chandler Cunningham South as maybe a more regular second row. He could be like England's answer to Emmanuel Meafu, just an absolute physical beast in the second row, which he did really well against Wales, and looks like in the number 19 jersey, he's going to do a bit more of it this weekend against the France 15. As for the back row, I went for Ted Hill at 6, Sam Underhill at 7, Tom Willis at 8, and obviously that's the same except for club teammates Sam Underhill not in the squad and Guy Pepper is in. And this is where I can't make up my mind. Is that a form merit-based pick or is that rotation? Because you could argue Sam Underhill is the first choice if he's fit and firing, but he's been suspended for a while, so he's not available. In fact, does he even have one more week on his suspension? He might even have one more week on his suspension, and so he's not available, in which case that's immaterial. But Guy Pepper has been playing, is match fit, and was a man of the match in the Premiership final. So I think you could make an argument that even if Sam Underhill is available, Steve Borthwick has picked who he thinks is the best available player right now. But equally, that selection of Guy Pepper could point to the fact that there's a little bit of rotation going on. And when you look in the back line, you could also make that argument when you look at fullback, because earlier in the week I picked Freddie Stewart if I was picking a strongest available England team. And Steve Borthwick, with the selections he's made historically, you would think without George Furbank, without Marcus Smith, that Freddie Stewart is the next cab off the rank for him. But he's gone with Joe Carpenter. I'm really pleased for Joe Carpenter. He's excellent, really, really good. And his aerial game is fantastic. And to be fair, Freddie Stewart's, and that's the one area he is world class at, but he wasn't that great at the weekend. He got done by Will Muir. And Steve Borthwick's picked Joe Carpenter, who's very good at that as well, but also has a really good counter-attack game. So I think you could make an argument that he's picking the strongest available team. And he thinks Joe Carpenter is above Freddie Stewart in the pecking order. That's kind of where I'm coming down on at the minute, which surprises me. But I would also not be totally surprised if Steve Borthwick might be thinking, I like the look of Joe Carpenter and Guy Pepper, but I'm probably not going to pick them against Argentina. So let's have a look at them now. Maybe they'll get a game and an actual England cap against the game against the USA. Or maybe they're not even going to go on the tour. So let's give them some game time now. But that's going to be one to watch. And again, I'm a little bit torn in my thinking. Let me know what you think. My gut feeling is Steve Borthwick's picking the strongest available team. And if that's the case, he thinks Ted Hill is above Chandler Cunningham South, potentially. He thinks Joe Carpenter might be above Freddie Stewart. And also, Seb Atkinson is the other interesting selection because he's in. But Fraser Dingwall, who you would have expected to have started if everyone was available and it was a big test match. But Fraser Dingwall has been rehabbing with the team, not 100% fit. So that would explain that one as well. So Seb Atkinson, really, really pleased for him and excited for him. That's very cool. Obviously, Ben Spencer starting and Rafi Quirk on the benches by virtue of the fact that Jack Van Portfleet is with the Lions team. When I picked my team the other day, JVP was starting, Spencer on the bench, but there you go. So yeah, the more I look at it, the more I think this is what Steve Borthwick thinks is his strongest team. And that could, if that is the case, I mean, when he's fit and firing, and even if he might not even be available, but Sam Underhill, I think, would be above Guy Pepper. Joe Carpenter, we'll wait and see if he's above Freddie Stewart, see how that one pans out. Because there are other players that have been real good form picks that if you wanted to do a bit of rotation, you might get them into the matchday squad. Think about Manny Eogan. Think about Will Muir. So, yeah, I think that's where I'm coming to. This is what Steve Borthwick thinks is the strongest available team. And if that is the case, that speaks to, I think, the way England want to play, because just the selection of Joe Carpenter above Freddie Stewart just kind of opens up the mindset a little bit. He might be more comparable to George Furbank than to Freddie Stewart. And maybe that is a recognition of the direction that England want to go. And remember, you've also got Lee Blackett involved with the squad at the moment, who's overseeing the attack. And that's very much more the way that Lee Blackett is minded. So, and actually, Lee Blackett, his team did a really, really good job at completely neutralising the strength of Freddie Stewart. So, yeah, and that's just a fascinating one to watch. I don't know if I'm right or wrong on that, but I'm sure you'll let me know what you think. Please do. Give your thoughts in the comments down below. Give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe. I will see you on the next one. This is being not on a terrestrial TV broadcaster. No one wanted to pay the rights for the game, so it is free to air on Rugby Pass, which is cool. Now, you know me, I'm a big fan of free rugby, not behind a paywall. That's why I acquired the rights to the French second division, so that I could bring the brilliance of Pro D2 to the world. So I'm a big fan of this. Well done, Rugby Pass. and I will be watching. We've got the Lions on Friday night. We've got England on Saturday, top 14 Saturday night, Super Rugby final Saturday morning. Bring it on.